Alright, so with this video, I got a couple more tips and tricks for Pixel Survival 2. And so the first one is probably the most helpful tip, like in the entire game as far as the quality of life goes. This is auto attack. You can do this by holding the A button, going into your inventory, letting go of A, and then exiting out of your inventory. And this just makes you attack until you either hit an NPC or hit the A button again. And so it is super helpful. That way you don't have to just hold your finger on the A button the entire time while playing the game. And once you get good at this, you can do it really fast, like in the space of just one jump. And it's super helpful. Like when I found out about it, it changed how I play the game. So I highly recommend getting good at that and getting used to it, because it makes playing the game significantly easier and more fun. Now, after this, I'm going to talk about storage, tips for storage and things like that. So first of all, one way to kind of reduce storage while you're in an area so that you have more inventory space is to always bring your coins with you. This way, when you get items that you don't really need, you can just immediately turn them into dust. This is a couple things. Say you've got some potions and some ores that you don't really need and you're just going to get rid of later. If you turn them into dust, that takes those 4 or 5 inventory spots you're using up and trades them out for just 1 inventory spot that's dust. Not only that, you are almost definitely going to need big evil crystals at some point in your playthrough. So by getting that dust early and turning it into dark crystals and small evil crystals, you're essentially skipping part of the grind, because by the time you get there, you're already going to have some of the crystals you need to make that next piece of gear. Now, as far as big storage goes, you've got your inventory lady who has about 6 or 7 spaces, I believe, that you can buy with gems to open more inventory. But once you fill all those up, there's not a whole lot of options to get more space, which is a little bit of a problem because Cowbeans keeps adding more items, but not more storage. But there are a couple ways to increase this. First one, and probably the most common one, is you've got 3 characters. So your second 2 characters that you're not really using, that gives you a combined space of 10 places to put gear and 2 more full inventories where you can store loot. And since every character shares the same storage, if you need to take an item from one of them, you just put it into your storage, switch back to your main character, and grab it again. On top of this, though, you can get 1 extra piece of storage where you sell items. If you have an item that's tradable and you just sell it for 100,000 coins, no one's going to buy it because it's not worth the price. So you've essentially bought yourself 1 extra piece of storage. And if someone does happen to buy it, assuming you're putting it up there for way more than it's worth, then you've made so much of a profit that it's 100% worth it, even if you don't have the item anymore, because you can just buy it again and still have coins left over. Not only that, try not to keep items you don't need. I understand keeping a collection. I mean, I myself have one. But for example, if you're in the late game, you're doing Nightmare Valley, you're doing Modena Ruins, that sort of thing, you don't really need copper or iron anymore unless you're trying to get evil crystals. So there's no reason in keeping copper, iron, or bars. On top of that, gold and silver you can get extremely easily late game. So I recommend having it in your inventory while you're grinding so you can smelt in between runs. But if you don't have the inventory space, then just sell it later for coins, and then you're saving, that's 2 more pieces of inventory space you're not using up. So there's just a couple ways to increase your storage. Now, after this, I want to talk about gems, because it's something everyone needs all the time, and you don't always want to spend money. So here are the best ways to get gems. First of all, the chest that spawns to the left of the blacksmith, it refreshes every hour, which means in theory you can open it 24 times a day if you don't sleep and you log in at exactly 1 hour every day. However, you're more likely not going to be opening it that many times because you got to sleep, and you'll probably be a couple minutes behind each time. But still, that's the best way so far to get gems. Now, on the home page, the home screen, there will be a video you can watch to get 2 gems. That refreshes every 4 hours. Meaning in theory, you can get it 6 times a day, but with sleep, you're probably only going to be getting it up to 4 times a day. Now, after this, the best way to get gems without having to watch ads or spend money is to just kill the king and the queen in hell over and over and over again. The reason being, they drop gems just like every other boss, and they drop characters, and you can use those characters to drop gems, meaning you're getting gems in more than one way, and they have a slight chance to drop 2 gems instead of 1. Now, this method used to be significantly better to the point where you could get 60 to 80 gems a day just by killing them and opening your ad chest. However, Calbeans did nerf the drop rates because it was extremely OP before. But those are probably the best ways to get gems. And yeah. Alright, and lastly, I just wanted to talk about the status effects in the game, which currently there are three of them. The first one, and probably the most significant one, is the poison debuff. This makes it so you take damage over time until the debuff ends, rather by you drinking an antidote potion or you just waiting for the timer to run out. Now, this debuff used to be pretty much a non-issue because it would only do 1 damage per tick. However, sort of recently, Calbeans updated the game so the damage of poison scales off of how much health you have. So now for me, I'm at about 67 health. So it's dealing 4 damage a tick and it ignores defense. So it is the most deadly debuff in the game, and I have lost multiple runs because I don't realize I'm poisoned and it kills me before I can get heal. So always keep an eye on that because it'll ruin lots of runs. After this, we've got the tired debuff. This one's not as much of an issue. It makes it so you can't regen stamina while the debuff is active. However, your pets can still regen stamina and the debuff doesn't last that long. And so it's not that much of an issue. I, for the longest time, didn't even know that it did anything until like really paying attention to it. So it's not as much of an issue, but you can counteract the debuff with stamina potions. However, for what they do, they're expensive to make, and it's more worth it just to sell them for the 25 coins. The last debuff, I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's this little like frozen guy on your screen. And from what I can tell, it makes it so you get critted more often. So say an enemy's max crit to you is 15 damage. Usually it won't happen too often that it does the full 15 damage. And so when you have that debuff active, it'll happen more often. As far as I can tell, that's all the debuff does. There's no real way to counteract it. Just once you have it, you gotta wait for the timer to end. So I do wish they would kind of revamp that debuff a little bit, make it more clear on what it does. But for right now, it's not really an issue, so you don't really gotta worry about it. That's all the tips and tricks I have for right now. Hope you guys are having a good day. Goodbye.